What if the thunder of wings that could have rewritten the blood-soaked maps of World War II was strangled in the cradle by cold calculations, dooming daring souls to spiral into forgotten graves, their echoes lost in the wind-whipped ruins of what might have been? Imagine the choking smoke of the Blitz in 1940 London, searchlights stabbing the night like accusatory fingers, bombs whistling down on families huddled in tube stations, the air thick with the acrid bite of burning timber and the distant wail of air raid sirens that never quite drowned out the guttural snarl of Messerschmitts prowling overhead. And in a rain-lashed hangar on the outskirts of Reading, where the Thames mud clings to boots like a grim omen, a team of weary engineers, hands blackened by grease, eyes hollow from sleepless nights, hustle around a skeletal frame of plywood and spruce, piecing together the Miles M20 in a frantic 65 days, faster than any blueprint ever demanded, its broad wings sagging under tanks that slosh with enough fuel to chase Luftwaffe raiders from dawn to dusk, twice the range of the battered Hurricanes already bleeding out over Dover. A bubble canopy, arched like a protective dome, offering pilots a god's-eye view of the chaos below, 12 Browning machine guns nested in its belly and wings, double the firepower of a Spitfire, ammo belts coiled like serpents ready to strike. The test pilot, a scarred veteran named George Errington with a moustache singed from a too-close flak burst, straps in as ground crew crank the Merlin engine to life, its cough turning to a bellow that rattles rivets and sends pigeons exploding from the rafters, the prop wash whipping tarps into frenzy. But as it lurches forward on that slick tarmac, tires chewing gravel like teeth on bone, the nose dips unnaturally, wheels snagging in a rut hidden by puddles, the airframe groaning in protest, buckling under the strain of its own untested weight, flipping end over end in a cartwheel of splintered wood and shredded fabric, Errington scrambling free with a gash across his forehead, blood mixing with fuel as the wreck smoulders, flames licking at the canopy like vengeful tongues. Whispers ripple through the ministry like poison. Too heavy, too rushed, the suits in Whitehall murmur over brandy and oak-panelled rooms, files stamped redundant while Hurricanes and Defiance take the brunt, their pilots twisting in fiery tombs over the channel. The M20s remains bulldozed into a gravel pit by dawn, its promise of salvation buried under layers of indifference, leaving London to burn a little brighter that winter. Cut across the iron-grey waves to Germany's fog-shrouded Baltic coast, where Kurt Tank's drafting tables in Bremen overflow with feverish sketches. The Focke Wulf FW 187 Falk emerging from wind tunnels like a predator uncoiling, twin Jumo engines purring at 395 miles per hour, 50 knots faster than the lumbering Bf-110 it's meant to eclipse, its slim fuselage slicing air with surgical precision, climb rate rocketing it to 20,000 feet in under 7 minutes, range stretching 1,000 miles to escort heinkels over English soil without gasping for breath, tandem cockpits for pilot and observer squeezed tight but functional, 4 MG-17s and a cannon in the nose barking in tests that shred target sleeves to confetti. The prototype maiden flight in 1939, flown by Hans-Dieter Weygand, with a grin splitting his face as it outpaces FW-190s in mock pursuits, looping gracefully over the mudflats where U-boats lurk like submerged sharks. But back at the Luftwaffe evaluation grounds, generals squint at stopwatches and altimeters, heads shaking. Instruments must be off, too good to be true. Ernst Udet chuckles uneasily, his showman's flair clashing with the data. Engines promised by junkers delayed in production snarls. Prototypes posed for propaganda reels claiming phantom victories over Poland, crewmen cursing the narrow doors that pinch shoulders raw during endless scrambles. By 1940, as France crumbles under blitzkrieg treads, the Focke sits crated in a Deschimag warehouse, wings folded like broken promises, requisitioned for training aids, while Bf-110s hemorrhage cruise over the Low Countries, their Zastura dreams turning to nightmares in dogfights. They can't win. Tank pounding desks in futile rage. The bird's speed a ghost story told in pilot mess halls, its files gathering dust as the Reich's factories churn out mediocrity. Leap the Atlantic to 1941's sun-baked decks of USS Ranger, where Grumman's Long Island shops have birthed the XF-5F-1 skyrocket, a pug-nosed fiend with contra-rotating props chewing air without the torque that spins lesser birds into carrier catapults. twin rudders forking the tail like devil's horns, climb rate devouring 3,000 feet per minute, outstripping P-40 Warhawks in head-to-heads over Chesapeake Bay, pilots like Butch O'Hare whooping as it folds wings hydraulically for snug hangar berths, visibility panoramic from the stepped cockpit, spotting Mach zeros from 5 miles out on crystal days. But trials turn treacherous, radiators overheating like fevered brows on Virginia summers, vaporizing coolant in plumes that blind instruments, landing gear hydraulics seizing mid-trap, struts crumpling on steel decks with screams of tortured metal. One prototype, number 2855, cartwheeling into foam after a hook snag, pilot Bill Lawrence punching out with a broken arm, hauled aboard by frogmen as the wreck settles stern first. Navy evaluators in crisp whites pore over logs in Quonset huts, pencils tapping. Wildcat's reliable enough, they conclude, sidelining the rocket for comics where it duels Buck Rogers, its blueprints mothballed as Pearl Harbor's smoke still curls, Japan's A6Ms dancing unchallenged while Grumman pivots to safer cats, the skyrocket's snarl reduced to echoes in wind tunnel ghosts. Deeper into the Reich's blackout-veiled heart, Heinkel's Rostock Warrens hum with forbidden fire in 1941, the He-280 V1, a silver dagger with Hess 8 turbojets, Hans von Ohein's brainchild, whining to 342 miles per hour on that crisp March morning, the first pure jet to kiss the sky, a full year before Messerschmitt's 262 steals the thunder, airframe sleek as a stiletto, wings tapered for transonic whispers, climb rate mocking props at 3,250 feet per minute. Pilot Helmut Schenk, a lanky Prussian with ice blue eyes, nurses it through loops over the Warnemünde dunes, outclimbing FW-190s like they were laden kites. But winter bites back, icing on the canopy during a high-altitude jaunt in November 41, controls freezing solid as the jet plummets in a flat spin, Schenk yanking the experimental ejection seat's handle, rocketing through the cockpit roof in a blast of cordite and shattered plexiglass, the first man ever to bail from a fighter, tumbling 20,000 feet under a silk bloom to crash land in snowdrifts, bruised but breathing, while V1 spirals into the Baltic, a frothy grave. Ernst Heinkel storms Goering's chancellery, blueprints unrolled across marble floors. This ends the prop era, he pleads, demos circling Bf-109s in lazy superiority, immune to dive-bombing foes. But engines sputter, the HS-8's fuel thirst unquenched by promised BMW upgrades that evaporate in supply chain fog. Milch and Udet trading glances. Too risky, too soon. The verdict falls like an axe. Prototypes V2 and V3 mothballed in glazed sheds. V3 captured intact by allies in 45. Dissected in Wright Field labs before the torch, its jet flame a flicker snuffed by doubt. Leaving Me-262s to scramble late, bleeding aces over the roar. Rewind to 1938's sunlit fields near Oranienburg, where Walter and Siegfried Günther unveil the Heinkel He-100, a record-shattering sprite clocking 394 miles per hour on its DB601 heart. Elliptical wings, borrowed from Spitfire Whispers, curving like scimitars for low drag, surface evaporative cooling hissing steam through radiators like a locomotive's breath, lighter than the Bf-109 by 200 pounds. Range pushing 650 miles for bomber escorts that could have clawed Britain's throat in 40. Pilot Eric Warsitz guns it to 16,000 feet in 5.8 minutes, outpacing Gustav's in Rechlin trials, simpler assembly lines promising floods of airframes from unskilled hands. But the cooling betrays. 22 auxiliary pumps clogging in humid tests, steam vents icing over mid-climb, Udet fixated on speed badges over reliability, ignoring memos that scream unstable as prototypes overheat on long patrols. Then tragedy strikes. Günther, the visionary brother, wraps his roadster around a tree on a rain-slick autobahn in 41. Whispers of Gestapo shadows or simple fate. The project rechristened He-113 to dodge the unlucky 13, peddled to Japan and Russia with blueprints that gather barnacles in transit. Propaganda posters plaster it as a fleet scourge, claiming sunk carriers it never saw, while the real birds rust in hangars. Luftwaffe brass wedded to Messerschmitt's proven flaws, dooming escorts to attrition over the Atlantic. Günther's grave a quiet footnote to genius silenced. Shift south to Italy's Alpine Forges in 1943. Fiat Mirafiori plant a hive of welders and riveters under Mussolini's fading gaze, birthing the G55 from Giovanni Castoldi's fevered nights. But wait, enter the G56 in 44, a wolf in sheep's clothing with a DB603G engine snarling 1,750 horses, 426 miles per hour in level flight, 3 20mm cannons, and two 12.7s converging fire through the prop hub like a lance. Handling so intuitive, Kurt Tank, visiting from Bremen, nods gravely. Better than my 190 in the turns. Wing loading forgiving for green pilots, climb to 20,000 feet in 8 minutes flat. Prototypes thunder over Turin's Po Valley, outdogging Makis in mock scraps. Regia Aeronautica evaluators scribbling frenzied notes. This turns the tide, but supply lines snap like brittle bones. DB engines siphoned by greedy Germans for FW-180Ds. Allied bombers turning factories to moonscapes in cascading raids. Cascina Vianino leveled in a firestorm of 500-pounders. Only 2 airframes ever breathe. Number 1 lost to a belly-landing shear-off. Number 2 hidden in barns as partisans prowl. Mussolini's puppet Salo Republic bartering scraps for fuel that never comes. Tank's endorsement a cruel tease as the G56 rusts under tarps. Its roar imagined in the dreams of pilots facing P-51 swarms. Over Anzio. Far east in Japan's volcanic haze, Mitsubishi's Nagoya shadows stretch long in 1944. The Ki-83 rising from Kenji Tanaka's drawing board, a heavy fighter with Hei-214 radials captured from B-29 Rex, pushing 473 miles per hour at 20,000 feet, 4 20mm and two 12.7mm in the nose-shredding silk sleeves at 600 yards, looped from 2,000 feet at 400 mph in 31 seconds, more agile than Grumman's twin-tailed F-7F Tiger Cat, it bested in smuggled specs. Pilots like Saburo Sakai's ilk test it over Ice Bay, diving on mock superforts with precision that chills, high-altitude perch out of P-38 reach. But the gods of war decree otherwise. B-29 fire raids from the Marianas hammer the line. Prototypes 1 through 3 pulped in infernos of magnesium and napalm, fuselages twisted like modern art in smouldering craters, the 4th crated for evaluation. Shipped stateside post-surrender on USS Franklin D. Roosevelt, poked by right field eggheads who marvel at its grace. But in 1950, under budget knives, it's torched in an Arizona boneyard. No museum berth, just ash scattered on desert winds. Japan's kamikaze hordes, claiming the skies it might have ruled. Stateside in 1944's Kansas wheat seas, Beechcraft's XP-42A, wait, no, the XA-38 Grizzly, lumbers from El Segundo Sands, a pugnacious beast with a 75mm M4 cannon yanked from M4 Sherman guts, spitting 7-mile shells at 1,500 feet per second to crater pillboxes from standoff range. Twin Wright R-3350s, stolen from B-29 superforts, hauling 37,000 pounds at 376 mph, low level, faster than the P-47 Thunderbolt it shadows. Dorsal and ventral turrets with 50 cows guarding 6 o'clock threats, armor plate shrugging off 20mm hits, first flight smooth as silk, serviceability hitting 95% out the gate, exceeding every pencil-pushing spec in Muroc tests, pilots banking it over Antelope Valley scrub to strafe ghost tanks, cannons boom echoing like Judgment Day. But the war's more hungers, those radials rerouted to Boeing's bellies for Tokyo runs, brass in the Pentagon sighing over memos. Engine famine strikes again, prototypes grounded, one vanished in a ferry crash over the Rockies, fog and ice claiming it whole, the other slated for Smithsonian glory, but lost in post-war shuffle, melted for F-86 fuselages. The Grizzly's bark, muted as Iwo Jima falls to flamethrowers without its siege-breaker punch. As Normandy's beaches run red in June 44, with Higgins boats splintering under MG-42 Chattering gliders crumpling into hedgerows like tinfoil, Britain's de Havilland shadows stir the MB-5 from Martin Baker's Denham Dens, a masterpiece of restrained fury, with a Rolls-Royce Griffon 65 belting 2,150 horses, 466 mph in a dive that pins pilots to seats, 4 20mm Hispano cannons inboard for convergence kill zones, cockpit a symphony of ergo, retractable armoured glass, oxygen auto-feed, instruments clustered like a lover's secrets, docile stall at 80 mph for carrier traps, yet vicious in scissors with P-51s over mock raw dams. Maintenance a dream, cowlings hinging like bar doors for 5-minute swaps, could have cleared V-1 buzz bombs from Kent skies or escorted Lancasters unmolested. But jets loom like spectres, Gloucester meteors whispering in trials, and Air Ministry mandarins yawn over tea. Spitfire WT-3 suffices. The prototype's engine coughing smoke on a Farnborough demo, rumoured sabotage or gremlins grounding it before Churchill's gaze. Echoes of tragedy linger. Valentine Baker, the founder's kin, shredded mid-air in the MB-3's 10th flight when its Napier Sabre grenades itself, shards perforating the canopy, his death birthing the ejection seat from Baker's vengeful forge, saving 7,000 souls post-war while the MB-5 gathers cobwebs, its grace a whisper in jet-wake turbulence. Eastward in the Ural's iron grip, 1942's brutal frosts crack Polikarpov's I-153 hangars. But no, the I-185 claws free, Nikolai Polikarpov's redemption after Chaika biplane stalls, an M82 radial 2,000 HP monster, flinging it to 426 MPa, airframe 20% lighter than a Hellcat, climb 4,900 feet per minute like a falcon from a gauntlet, armament twin Shkas, and a 20mm Shvak chewing through Il-2 mock-ups. Frontline trials over Smolensk mud, outturning yaks in furballs, aerobatics that loop inside their own contrails, aces like Kozhedub begging for squadrons. Stalin's nod tentative after purges, but spins haunt, Valery Chkalov, the polar flyer idol, smeared across Kudinka in an I-180 precursor's uncontrollable corkscrew, enemies of the people blamed as heads roll. Test pilot Tomas Suzy follows in a fiery dive, airframe shedding wings like autumn leaves. Production mock-up erupts on rollout, flames claiming 2 more. Polikarpov, gaunt from camps, tweaks radials till his heart quits in 44. The I-185 shelved for Yak-9 adequates, its dives echoing in mass graves from Stalingrad to Berlin. These spectral squadrons, wooden M20 in English pits, Folk's tandem tombs in Baltic crates, Skyrocket's deck-wrecked husks, He-280's iced Baltic plunge, He-100's steamed radiators, and Gunter's twisted Mercedes, G-56's bombed Turin bones, Kai-83's Nagoya pyres, Grizzly's canyon crash enigma, MB-5's Farnborough stutter, I-185's Smolensk spirals, thread a noose of near misses, each crash a scar on history's hide, pilots' ghosts pacing runways at midnight, designers' sketches yellowing in attics, wars waged on half measures while brilliance bleeds out. The human toll mounts, Errington's scar a badge of what-ifs, Weygand's grin fading in training wrecks, Lawrence's arm mending too late for Midway, Schenk's parachute tangles in propaganda lies, Warsitz's records gathering moths, Italian test jocks vanishing in Salo shadows, Tanaka's crew immolated in dawn raids, beach pilots probing lost hulks in Sierras, Baker's kin avenged in seats not wings, Chkalov's cult statue blind to spins. Not steel alone, but souls bartered for feasible, leaving skies to the mediocre, aces to early pyres. Yet peel back the fog of these fumbles, and a shadow economy thrives. Blueprints bootlegged like contraband smokes, whispers in neutral ports from Lisbon to Stockholm, engineers defecting with rolled tubes under coats, the He-100's evaporative secrets fueling Soviet MiG sketches, Fiat's G46 hub fire inspiring Mackey's post-war hairs, Mitsubishi's Ki-83 loops haunting Grumman's F2H Banshee curbs. Picture the black market bazaars of wartime intrigue, a Swedish middleman in a Geneva cafe palming Heinkel jet schematics for Swiss francs. Von Ohien's rivals in Farnborough reverse engineering captured V3 shards, Polikarpov's radial tweaks smuggled via Finnish smugglers to avoid NKVD eyes. Each failure a seedbed for tomorrow's triumphs, the M20's bubble canopy echoing in mosquito glass, Folk's range in Ju-88 stretches, Skyrocket's contraprops in post-war twin-engine trainers. But the cost? Lives ledgered in ledgers, thousands of RAF boys in hurricane coffins over Malta, Luftwaffe Zerstörer crews fish food in Biscay gales, USN Wildcat pilots clawing from coral sea pyres, Yak pilots outclimbed by FW-190s over Kuban, all for want of that extra knot, that reliable pump. delve deeper into the M20's doomed dawn. Errington, post-crash, chain-smoking in the ops tent, recounting the flip to wide-eyed rookies. Felt the ground reach up like it was waiting before shipping to 257 Squadron, where he bags 3 109s in a Defiant turret, but dies in 42 over Dieppe, flak-shredding his kite, the M20's ghost-riding shotgun. Focke's caged flights. Weygand, demoted to ferry pilot, hauls BF-110s to Norway, icing claiming him over the leads in 41, his logbook's Focke pages torn out by censors. Skyrocket's deck disasters. Lawrence, rehabbed, flies F4Fs at Guadalcanal, zeroes his Hellcat tally to 5, but a zero rakes him in 43, washing ashore on Tulagi with medals pinned to driftwood. Schenk's jet escape. Post-bailout, he tests Me-163 rockets. Comet's glycol stall spins him into the Elbe mud in 44, the first jetman's irony complete. Gunther's road wreck. Whispers of Himmler's envy over Heinkel favoritism. The crash site combed by SD agents before medics arrive. Blueprints burned in the glove box. G56's hidden pair. One pilot, Luigi Guarini, defects to allies with Fiat sketches, aces P-51s in a captured Macchi, but partisans string him up in 45 as a rat. The G56's fire his unspoken elegy. Ki-83's survivor crate. US interrogators in 46 grill Tanaka's notes from a Yokosuka cell. His harakiri forestalled by MacArthur's mercy, but the jet's ash scatters his legacy. Grizzly's phantom. The lost bird's wreckage rumors persist. Hikers in 72 claim a canyon glint, but Sayar calls it bear scat, the 75mm shells rusting unseen. MB5 stutter. Demo pilot Jeffrey Quill, Tempest Ace, nurses the cough to a safe wheels up, lives to pen memoirs decrying the suits who flew desks, his what-ifs fueling Vulcan bomber dreams. I-185's cursed climbs. Susie's widow petitions Molotov for a medal, gets a samizdat pamphlet instead, circulated in dissident circles till 56 thaw. These threads weave a counterfactual shroud. What if M20s shield the Clyde shipyards? Focke's Harry Ark Royals, unescorted. Skyrockets stem the Solomon's bleed. E-280s strafe Doolittle's raid. E-100s flip the Bobby calculus. G-56's blunt Anzio airlifts. Ki-83's cull B-29 streams. Grizzly's crack Tarawa reefs. MB-5's swat V-2s from Peenemünde. I-185s shatter Barbarossa's spearhead. Wars shortened, graves fewer, but hubris's harvest reaped in alternate ashes. Deeper still, the machinations unwind like a spy's reel. Udet's suicide in 41, pistol to temple after Stalingrad whispers. His Falk dismissals haunting Goering's trial dock. Milch's slave labour factories churning props while jets rust. Heinkel's post-war exile, penniless in Argentina, sketching doodles for Perron's Air Force. Von Ohein thriving in Ohio. NASA jets his penance. Polikarpov's TB-2 biplanes, relics of his glory, towed to museums under Khrushchev's squint. Beech's grisly ghosts fuel XP-75 Eagle bids, but Eagles clip too, engines pilfered anew. Martin Baker's seats, from Val's Pyre, rocket aces, like Jaeger from X-1 Flames. Fiat's post-war rebirth, G55s as Seria trainers, the 56's hub a whisper in G91s. Mitsubishi's Phoenix, Ki-83 curves in F-86 Sabre imports. Grumman's pivot, skyrocket bones in Panther jets, Miles' wooden legacy M20 scraps in mosquito molds. Focke-Wulf's tank, denazified, builds F-104 stars for Lockheed. Focke's speed his silent blueprint. Each failure a fulcrum, tipping jets from folly to fleet. Gloucester's meteor from He-280 echoes. Me-262's rush born of shelved shame. P-80, shooting star swallowing skyrocket sips. But the pilot's ledgers? Errington's squadron mates toast his ghost in Biggin Hill bars. Weygand's widow claims a Kriegsmarine pension. Lawrence's Guadal kids etch ace on his stone. Schenk's Elba divers recover boots not bones. Warsitz fades to taxi driver in Hamburg ruins. Gorini's partisans recant in 47 amnesties. Tanaka's cell becomes a textbook. Quill's memoirs sell in Chilton's. Untold, the ground crews, riveters with lung black from weld fumes, fitters losing fingers to props, spotters blinded by arc lights, who birthed these beasts only to watch bonfires claim them. The war's underclass, names erased like chalk from blackboards. In the hush of VE Day's ticker-tape drifts, Berlin's Brandenburg Lions gaze at pockmarked skies. Hangars from Rostock to Reading stand as skeletal chapels to the shelved, wind keening through cowling gaps like dirges for the unflown. M20's plywood peels like old skin. Folk's Jumos seized for tractors. Skyrocket's props auctioned for scrap. He 280's turbojets melted for mess kits. He 100's ellipticals blueprinted in Boeing Volts. G56's cannons spiked for doorstops. Ki 83's radials powering rice threshers. Grizzly's cannon bored out for artillery salutes. MB5's Griffin heartbeat in Merlin airs. I-185's M82 coughing in yak museums. A requiem for roads not taken, where innovations spark gutters not in labs but boardrooms. Generals' pipes puffing doubt smoke thicker than flak. Yet from these pyres rise phoenixes. Cold War wings with ejection rails from Baker's Vow, contraprops in drone swarms, evaporative cools in hypersonic skins, hub cannons in A-10 throats. The what-ifs linger like smoke. Could M20s have spared Coventry's cathedral? Folks turned the Atlantic wolf packs. Skyrockets held wake. He 280s blitzed Scapa Flow. He 100s bled the few. G56s stalled Monte Cassino. Ki 83s darkened Mariana's moons. Grizzlies breached Omaha. MBB5s clipped Hitler's mustache. I-185s iced Leningrad's siege. History's rewritten in ink, not blood, but reality's blade cuts truer. Progress forged in failure's forge, each crash a lesson etched in titanium, leaving us to ponder in archive dust, if those silent symphonies might have harmonized peace sooner, or if their graves, piled high with not quite, birthed the booms that followed, jets screaming from the bones of birds that never truly spread wings.